are you doing?
Good. Apart from having a completing lack of capacity to deal with technical issues, I'm absolutely awesome.
Well, it doesn't sound too awesome, but I'm sure you'll get that.
How are you?
I'm good as well. Just a lot of cool things happening and a few new clients on board, which is really exciting. That's for me. But yeah, today I would love to have a little bit of a chat about obviously Shopify Plus, as well as like any kind of trends moving forward, because yeah, you and your team, you obviously are expert when it comes to that. So introduce yourself a little bit, please.
Okay, hi, I'm Ben. My name's Ben DeJonge. It's a Dutch surname. I'm Australian. I'm a director of the Cut. We're a Perth agency and we specialise in Shopify, as you've said. We're quite a small consultancy. We've worked with Shopify since 2010, and in the last sort of 4 years, we've specialised more and more into it. It's pretty much all we do now.
Okay. And in terms of like agency, so you're only taking over like the development?
Yeah, so our focus is on the sites, the websites, the Shopify websites, designing them, developing them, customising them, working on integrations, operational challenges, apps and plugins, optimising conversion, anything that happens with a Shopify site or the things that attach to it is pretty much what we're doing.
Okay, awesome. So for the people that don't know, like, what is Shopify Plus and why is it so amazing?
So Shopify itself, if anyone doesn't know, is a hosted platform. So it's a big piece of software that allows anyone to go up and deploy or open an account and start a Shopify store. It's hosted, so you pay a subscription to belong and to have the site running on Shopify. Shopify Plus is still Shopify, but it's the enterprise level. So it has a bunch of additional features that I could spend hours talking about, but basically it's really designed for enterprise level, very fast growing businesses that are selling internationally often. And it has a bunch of like more technical and sophisticated features that allow you to automate processes, to customize the site in a more in-depth way. Things like that. It's also far more expensive than Shopify, the base level, but you get much more for it.
Okay, so what does need to happen in order to be Shopify Plus certified, just like you guys are?
So to become a Shopify Plus partner, you basically sort of go through this over time. You kind of build up your credentials with Shopify. You have to make a commitment to them. There are a bunch of things like any business arrangement or partnership where, you know, we're committed to help them spread the word about their brand and business. Obviously, we have to have a certain level of sort of technical proficiency. We have to focus on bringing people to Shopify and Shopify Plus, and all sorts of different things. But we've worked with Shopify since 2010, so we're pretty experienced in the platform.
Yeah, 2010 is like that's 100 years in digital marketing at time.
Totally. In Ben time, it's not really that long, but yeah, you're quite right. It was a different landscape in 2010 when we started working with the platform, for sure. I think it launched in 2004, so it's been around for quite some time.
And I love that like more and more people just are drawn to Shopify, which just makes also the life, obviously, for digital marketing side of things so much easier, because it's just so much easier to handle and tracking is just much better compared to like other platforms out there. So I'm like as well like a big fan of Shopify.
Yeah, it's something we talk about a lot. Like there's over 1.7 million active stores on Shopify. And certainly the integrations and the platform's focus on marketing and integrating with Google, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, it's really is best in class.
Awesome. Yeah, and we actually connected a few years ago when I went to one of your events in Perth, where you like focus on Shopify as well. So like, give us a little bit of a rundown. What is that about?
Yeah, so when we became a Shopify partner in 2017, I think it was, we started hosting the Perth Shopify meetups then. The official Shopify meetups are no longer a thing now with COVID. So Shopify have a global policy of no in-person events, but we continue to hold e-commerce events. They're pretty much the same thing, and really the focus of them is to bring merchants and digital specialists like yourself together in the room, and we get keynote speakers to fly in from the eastern states often, if not every time. And yeah, just bring people together to have wine and pizza and beer and to meet each other and hear from some experts and hopefully have a good time. We had our first one post-COVID about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and we're now planning our next one for very early September.
Awesome. So back again to Shopify Plus, what do you think is like when would people need to go from normal Shopify to Shopify Plus? What do you think is like okay, it's time?
It's often revenue based, but it can also be international expansion based. One of the key things you get with a Shopify Plus account is up to 9 expansion stores. So they are different websites that work off the same central platform. So you can have a website for America, a website for Singapore, a website for the UK, all running off the same platform. And then the business can then put different messaging, images, seasonal messaging into those different websites to suit those markets. The tipping point comes in different ways. Sometimes we see not huge businesses based in Perth who are just pushing hard and growing quickly and want to expand internationally. Sometimes you see the businesses are more interested in the technical advantages of Shopify Plus, but the financial equation has to be there. That has to work out for the brand before they would look at making that jump.
Okay, so how expensive is it actually? I don't even know how expensive it is.
It's circa $2,000 US a month, as compared to the top level on the base Shopify is $250 US a month, I think.
Okay, so it's quite a jump.
It's a huge jump. You really have to have that revenue. There are other advantages too, like the percentages that you pay on each transaction drop down. So if you're doing a huge number of transactions, there's kind of like can be this tipping point economically where moving to Plus becomes financially actually more efficient than being on the base platform.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you usually, like when you have your clients obviously working on things with you, do you usually then assess them if it's actually worth it or if it's like too soon or
completely? Yeah, we quite often talk to clients about, is it worth it? What are their reasons behind it? What are their growth plans? The first thing we look at is basically revenue, annual revenue, because there tends to be that tipping point at around 1.3 million US per annum. It's kind of becomes a tipping point around that where it would start to become a no-brainer to move to Plus.
Okay, awesome. Also good to know, obviously, from my clients, because a lot of them are in that range of like that almost 1.3 or like just after. So I'm just going to definitely have a talk with them if they're currently on Plus or not.
And there are other advantages there where they might see that having those features or those functionalities that come with Plus give them a cost saving in the business that might tip the balance. But the starting point is that revenue benchmark for sure.
Absolutely. So in terms of like e-commerce, obviously you mentioned you've been like forever with Shopify. Do you like have any like common mistakes that people are making or common things where you're like, well, classic, that happened again? Or is there anything that you see all the time?
So we've been running a Shopify podcast for about 2 or 3 years. We've got about 75 episodes, and I ask the question all the time of all the people I talk to, what are the 2 most important things that you see or would share with someone who's running an e-commerce store? And the 2 things that everyone talks about and we would support are knowing your customer and your brand. And by brand, it's not just your logo and your brand colors, but it's about, you know, how your business presents itself with its personality. Does it understand its customer? How is it communicating? What does the photography look like? It's really, really very, very, very important in that transaction between the human being and the website, that it's talking to the customer and being relevant to them. And to come back to your question, that's probably, in terms of the non-technical, that's probably the biggest sort of area of improvement we often see when we start talking to a new client, is that their websites are just not customer centric enough.
Absolutely, and it totally relates to like my field as well in terms of like digital marketing. So many people are just coming to me of like, okay, cool, I have a product, just market it, but you have no idea of like what is actually the pain point of the customer, why are people actually committing to a purchase, and what are the bigger reason behind everything. It's just so underrated, but it's so important, as well as like the branding as well, as you mentioned, knowing exactly in the copy, is it like go you girl, is it like something like that, or is it more like understanding, it's like very gentle? It's such a difference. And if you like have a different communication, it's like, well, that person's not going to purchase from you if you're not talking to them in the right way. So
Completely.
It's absolutely crucial.
Yeah, completely. And we use the analogy all the time because people tend to understand it, that the principles you would think about in a physical store, where there's a person stood there and they're going to talk to the person who's walking into the store, you need to be doing those same sorts of things in digital. It's a different environment, but it's the same idea. Like you wouldn't say, "Hey, how you doing, girlfriend?" to a 60-year-old man who walked into the door,
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
So you have to understand who your customers are going to be, what sort of language, what do they most likely want to be looking for. You need to be able to show them the benefits of what you're selling, not just the product you're trying to move to them, you know. And that's something that businesses often miss, because they tend to be, understandably, they tend to operate from within. So the most important thing to them is their product, and saying, and saying that it's awesome and telling people what it's made of. And there's definitely a place for all of those stories. But on home pages and when you're first trying to engage with a customer on an Ecomm site, you've got to be a bit more clever about it, and make the engagement and the experience for customers really enjoyable and positive and intuitive and easy. And all of those things have a very definite, very measurable effect on conversion.
And that a good conversion rate makes us all happy. Do you have like any, you mentioned before, that's like a non-technical side of thing, obviously branding and customer avatar and things like that. But do you like, what is the biggest technical issue that you think that you've like come across all the time?
We talk to clients quite a lot about Shopify POS, so the Shopify point of sale solution. And that has actually just been given quite an upgrade and has a newer, more evolved version entering the market. Shipping can be a big one. Shipping can be problematic and complex for businesses, especially if their products are larger, or they have a product catalogue where there's a large variety of size and weight to their products. Then shipping can be problematic. We work with a lot of clients on email automations, which kind of brings it back into the marketing sphere. Loyalty programs, customer reviews. So those platforms can become quite technical and require some work and some technical understanding and planning to implement them and get them working properly.
Okay. Yeah, there's
They're
like
probably a few of the most common ones. Yeah, there's definitely a wide range, yeah. Inventory management is another one.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's the thing with e-commerce. It's not just one thing that you have to consider. It's like you have 20 different hats that you're wearing at the same time.
There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of, just as there would be if you opened a physical store, right? You'd have to think about the lighting, the air conditioning, the security, the alarm, the cash register, the parking, you know, the toilet. There's always a lot of moving parts, and being digital doesn't necessarily simplify things. There's a lot of things to consider, for sure.
Like often with like Shopify stores, especially new clients, they're like they like the shiny object syndrome of like all those plugins and they're all amazing, which they are individually, but often obviously it impacts the speed. What do you think is like the sweet spot of too little or too many?
Well, there's no number, I don't think, because different apps will pull like and have different speed and performance implications. If it's a really, really heavy one, then one might be too many. But it's really about being very tactical with it and keeping your account clean. So if, you don't want to be running or testing a bunch of apps and then they all sit there and you don't use them and you forget about them and you keep on adding and you end up with 25 apps and you're only using 8 of them. Well, that's a pretty significant drain on your site. If you imagine your site is sort of carrying little bits of code and little bits of process for every one of those apps, as you said, it affects the speed and the page loading performance of the site. So it's not so much a magic number, it's like just making sure that the apps you have deployed are being used and you're getting value from them, and you push everything else out, get rid of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I would be probably one of those of like shiny object people, because they are pretty awesome, and like especially with marketing, there are so many really cool ones that you can like really use as like the post sale purchase, like any kind of cross promotions, any like all of that is like, I love that. You should have that, but obviously you have to look at the big picture if you actually need it.
And you're right, you should, but you have to balance that. And I think you can run a good number of apps before it starts to become, potentially a speed issue. But I think where we see problems is with the sites that have been deployed for longer, because all the apps can leave snippets of code, or they can have a dragging effect, even if they've been stripped out. So, app auditing can be useful. Site speed and load speed is a really challenging thing to solve and to improve. It can be really quite difficult and technical. So it's good to have a process of cleaning them out as you go. Don't let them build up into a big long list of stuff that has a lot of apps that you're not using.
It's just like any kind of car maintenance. You have to do it on a regular basis, otherwise your car is fucked, basically.
Yeah. Are we allowed to swear on this channel, Eva?
It's my channel. I can do whatever I want.
I thought this was a family show.
Nah.
Oh, you shocked me.
It's okay.
But yeah, you're quite right. Keep it maintained. Keep the oil in there, and put the McDonald's wrappers in the bins once you've finished pigging out, and keep it all nice and clean and fresh on the inside.
Okay, awesome, perfect. So in terms of like the quick wins, or like anything that like any kind of Shopify owner can do in order to improve their conversion rate, usability, kind of recommendations?
Yeah, I'm always very averse to using the idea of quick wins, but I think that there are different things that people can do themselves if they have the capacity to, and I don't think it's that easy to do. I always encourage people to sort of step back and consider their customer and look at their own website and say, is that website really helping your ideal customer?
Yeah.
Navigation can be a good one, like cleaning up your navigation and surfacing product categories, making sure that your featured categories on your homepage really are the ones that are the most popular product categories with your current clients. Use your data, get in the back end and have a look at your data and start making decisions based on your metrics, because there's a lot of data in there and a lot of it is very good and can be used to make smart strategic decisions about your site with.
Absolutely. It's just like also with the digital marketing side of things, also I always like to like keep it lean, keep it mean, and just like basically do a very simple approach and clean up the things that you don't need, and just have always the things only running that you actually need, and just get rid of the other things. And also make use of the data that you're having, and keep so much learning opportunities that you can get out of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like, it's keeping things simple and streamlined, both for your business and the customers who are hitting your site, will always improve things.
Absolutely.
Avoid complexity. Like, simplify. Try and make it as easy as possible for your customer to get from that idea or hearing of your business to actually finding the product that they like the look of because it's right for them.
Definitely. Being in e-commerce, obviously, for such a long time, you've seen a lot when it comes to trends and changes and the must-haves, quote unquote. Do you see like any trends moving forward? Where do you think it's going?
So conversational marketing is probably something that's worth mentioning. So we've already talked about email marketing, which is part of that, but I think chat and SMS marketing and communication between the business and the customer will be something that continues to become more and more important, because it allows a brand to reach a customer, in their hip pocket on their phone, right? So it's very, very immediate. It's removing barriers between the person and the e-commerce brand or the business. So I think that is something that will definitely continue to change. Shopify have just launched, so Shopify just had their big international global conference, which is now done digitally, and they just launched what they're calling Online Store 2.0. It's pretty much the biggest change the platform has made ever. And a big part of that is bringing what they call sections everywhere. So it puts like this modular design functionality across all the pages of Shopify. It has been on the homepage for a year or two, but now it's across the full site. So it means that when you're putting together a Shopify site, everyone has way more flexibility around the positions of content and those different content types.
Nice.
It's really exciting. It's been really welcomed with open arms by merchants and agencies like the Cut.
Awesome. It must be really good as well for like people just getting into Shopify to have it like the usability even improved further and the flexibility in things. So yeah.
It
Awesome.
removes a lot of the need to do customizations before, and just when all the themes get versioned up, it will make all of the themes, really enhance their ability to offer flexible design options when you're building out a site and when you're changing a site as you work with it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, very exciting.
It's very exciting, it's super cool.
In terms of like the direct response that you mentioned before, definitely agree, because like the need of connection is just so there. Like people want to connect with the brands more and more and more and see like the bigger picture and the values, and actually like see if it actually fits to their personality, and not going beyond that and actually seeing then the sales coming through like Facebook, Instagram, with the direct engagement of if they even get like a thank you message or whatever, something very like something personal, something like out of the norm. They're like, well, I'm invested in this now. And that's what I can definitely recommend as well with like direct response SMS. I actually had a chat yesterday with someone that offers that and was like, that can change everything in terms of actually returning customers and everything. So it's like, I'm definitely highly recommending that one as well.
I think the open rates in chat and SMS are like 60% or maybe slightly higher, whereas when you're talking about email, you may be looking at sort of 15 to 20% if you're doing it well. So, I mean, that speaks volumes, doesn't it? Just that the immediacy of it, and people are just used to hitting their SMS and looking at it, and it's a very direct conversation between the individual and the brand then as well. It's very personal, right? Like, who do you text message? You text message your close friends and your family, and then suddenly that brand is you're engaging with the individual in that same media, and that's extremely powerful. Yeah. I heard a very nice story about a little individual tweak where a beauty brand, I can't remember who it was now, but when they send out their products, they include a little Tim Tam. in each product. So when the customers unbox it and they talk about how incredibly effective that has been, like such a simple, affordable little extra touch that they put into their product packages, and people go crazy for it. They talk about it in their socials. The boyfriends come in and get the Tim Tam while the wife or the girlfriend is using the products that she's ordered. So super powerful little strategy, and a very, very simple one, but a nice little extra personal touch there can be super effective in a lot of different areas.
Absolutely. Doing the unexpected is like, in terms of marketing, does everything, because people are sharing it, people want to get their best friends to buy it, and so on. It's like, it's wildfire. It's so good, and I really also highly recommend every kind of brand to look beyond the normal and just go and do something different. Even try it.
Handwritten notes are very nice to put into a product package, and a hollow band, and a little thank you message. All of that sort of stuff can be really super effective in making people talk about your brand and recommend you to other people.
Absolutely. Awesome. So in terms of like, how can people get in touch with you? Obviously you're like in Perth based, but you work with clients all around the world, obviously.
They can't either. I'm a very private person, and I prefer not to engage or speak to anyone. No, look, we're happy to take calls. We have our website. People can email us at hello@thecut.net.au, or they can email me at ben@thecut.net.au. But we have forms on our website. It's probably the easiest and simple way to get in touch. They come to me directly anyway. But if you can get hold of me on LinkedIn, is a good channel to connect with me on as well. We're always happy to set up a call or take a phone call or have a coffee if people are in Perth, and just help them understand where the options and opportunities might lie, whether it's with Shopify or on another platform. We spend a lot of time educating people and really helping them understand the environment and what's happening and potentially where their business can go with e-commerce.
And also especially making those conversion optimizations on the website. So I highly recommend it to everyone coming on board. Basically it's just like go to the doctor and check yourself out. It's just the same, like go to the specialist and get your website optimized, or like even have a check into like what actually works right now, where could it be improved. Because as soon as you start hitting the traffic from like Google ads, Facebook ads, you don't want to have a leaking bucket. Make sure everything is tied up, so it's like ready to go.
Make sure your destination is perfectly ready to receive your best customers, and then the investment that you're making to drive the traffic will make a much bigger return to your business. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Awesome. So I'm definitely looking forward to our next catch up in person with your next event, when it's coming up. Hopefully,
are you still going to Europe soon?
That's a surprise.
Oh. I didn't say anything.
And yes,
don't worry. There's only about 70 or 80 people watching us. I think I can see a lot of familiar names on the stream. Actually, it's very nice to see some people I know have joined.
The replay is usually where it's getting actually the most views.
I get that.
But yes, but the next event, I'm going to join you then.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. We're going to start telling people about it pretty soon. We're just talking to some partners and getting another keynote locked in, but we're hoping it'll be another awesome event. Our last one was really good fun and went off really well. It was a great night.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. So thank you very much for taking time today, Ben. And
no worries at all. Thank you for having me. My very, very first Instagram Live, and it almost didn't go ahead.
It totally worked. We worked
totally worked in the end. It totally worked in the end, yes. Awesome. Thank you for having me, Eva. It's been awesome to talk to you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
See ya.